Good afternoon. Welcome to the Unemployment Law Project Monday webinar. My name is John Tierpak, Executive Director, and I have with me Ann Paxson, Staff Attorney and Policy Director. We will give an update on unemployment benefits and then take your questions. So if you have questions, be ready to put them in the chat. I have some questions already lined up. Unemployment Law Project provides free representation and advice for people with Washington State unemployment claims. And we have offices in both Seattle and Spokane, but we're a statewide organization. And we represent people in hearings and also provide advice with unemployment claims. So we'd like to begin with Ann Paxson and a current update. And if you have any questions, please put them in the Q&A and we will get to them after Ann's update. Thank you.
Thanks, John. Welcome everyone to our weekly webinar. So today I'm going to wrap up on some things we brought up in the last couple of weeks and update everyone on what's happening with possible new directions for the law and some interesting developments in the area of fraud and theft of unemployment benefits. So the first thing to mention is that I've been talking about the missing benefit, which is the mixed earner benefit. That is the $100 a week that was to go under the federal programs to people who had both W-2 income and self-employment income. They were in a bad position for receiving benefits because they had to choose one or the other. They couldn't combine their incomes, meaning they were going to get a reduced amount, whichever option they chose. So they were getting shorted, essentially. And the $100 a week from the feds was to make up in part for that shortfall that many of them were receiving. Now, what happened with this benefit was it was supposed to kick in last January, but because there were so many other things going on and priorities, the Employment Security Department postponed implementation until fall. So they are doing it now. Even though the program is technically expired, all of those weeks that people were eligible for the mixed earner benefit, they will be able to apply and qualify for. So watch for any word about that, and we will let people know as soon as we hear when the application process has started. It'll be delayed, but the money is there, and it will be distributed for people who are found to be eligible. So one of the reasons they let it go this long is because they felt it didn't affect that many people. I'm really interested to see how true that is, because we have talked with a lot of people who contacted us who've been in this boat, who've been receiving basically the minimal benefit when they should have been receiving somewhat more. Secondly, the Seattle Times had a story a few days ago about what is the impact on the state of losing all of these federal programs as they did September 4th. This is such a massive impact, it's kind of hard to overstate it. Washington got on the order of $16 billion in benefits from the time of the start of the pandemic until September 4th, 2021, when they were ended. Now, that not all the money has been distributed yet, so that could be there could be a few billion more that is waiting to be sent to people, because a lot of people still have appeals underway, and with the mixed earner benefit, there's more money coming as well. So it's really expected to be quite a lot of a large fund. But what happened after the benefits ended September 4th was the first big drop in benefits paid, obviously, under the expiring programs. So that went from, we had 137,000 people receiving benefits one week, and then the following week, it was down to 18,000. So if you're walking around observing that some people seem to be reeling in shock, that might be one reason, because that is a big cohort of people who are facing a very big drop in income. So at the same time, Washington saw fewer regular claims for regular benefits, but that doesn't mean there won't be more coming, because some of those are just being processed right now, or just getting submitted right now. But the ESD is saying that they're hoping that the decline of pandemic claims, which is happening now, obviously, over 100,000 right away, will give them more free time to work on the backlog and try to get things caught up, because a lot of these claims are the more complex ones to handle in the first place. But I wanted to update you on that backlog a little bit. So as of last week, ESD had a queue of about 28,000 appeals requests. That's still at the agency. So those are people who have not gotten to the point of getting a hearing assigned to them. And another 23,000 have appeals pending with the State Office of Administrative Hearings. So that's still a sizable number, not quite as many as there were last fall, but tens of thousands of more than is normal. The average contested claim, that is when you file an appeal with ESD, it goes to ESD first to process it, and possibly ESD might redetermine it. The average data process that is 23 days at ESD, and then 138 days to be heard at OAH. So more than 4.5 months before anything is going to get assigned a hearing date. That means, and that's after the 23 days already that it will spend at ESD. So that's still a significant delay for thousands and thousands of people. What's unknown is what will be the impact of the pandemic. We're starting to not refer to it as recovering from the pandemic right now. It's more of just continuing to deal with the pandemic because of all the variables, such as the Delta variant, the low vaccination rate, and we have some of the highest infection and death rates, not only in this country, but in the world. So there is a lot of reopening going on in the country, and a lot of people are finding new work. There are new job openings, but not nearly enough to cover everybody. And also there's always the risk and things will revert to where they were 10 months ago, and we may not be making as much progress as we hope. So is there any chance of getting those benefit programs extended? The Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez in the House of Representatives has drafted a bill, which is being finalized and we hope will be introduced this week, which would pick up the benefit programs again, extend them until February at least, because it's clear, not only to Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, but a lot of other people, that the pandemic conditions that brought those programs into being in the first place have not changed that much. The conditions are still out there. People are still facing homelessness, facing eviction, facing destitution in many cases, and just a lot of hardship. So we want to urge people to, when that bill does get finally introduced, to contact your legislators and express support for it, because there is such a great need for it. Interestingly, there was a former Washington ESD worker who was just arrested this week, charged with stealing an amazing amount of money, at least $360,000 in jobless benefits. It's kind of hard to grapple with that, but he has a 20 count federal indictment against him for exploiting his job at ESD. And he worked in processing claims, so he had access to all that information about claimants, and he was able to fraudulently dip into getting benefits in his own name, but also many of his friends. And he would take a cut of the benefits that they were to fraudulently win. So he had an very elaborate scheme, not quite as elaborate as Scattered Canary, the one from Nigeria, which was supposed to be the major source of the loss of the $600 million last year. But this was a very enterprising criminal. He actually had, interestingly, quite a criminal history before he was hired, which, most people would not object to people with some minor crimes in their past, but he had an extensive one: 6 counts of wire fraud, 9 counts of bribery. This is what he's charged with now, but what was he? He had a history of criminal convictions: domestic violence assault, violation of a protection order, harassment, felony theft, bail jumping, and controlled substance violations. So just for sheer quantity, it's an interesting story to see how he got into a position of trust where he was able to make off with such a huge quantity of benefits. So we were waiting to see what develops with that, but right now he's under arrest. And finally, I wanted to mention there's a movement afoot to establish more permanent changes in the unemployment system after all of the problems that have been exposed over the last couple of years during the pandemic. A lot of successes as well. We have to point that out. The fact that more than 20 billion in total benefits, state benefits and federal benefits, was distributed in Washington. That's a huge benefit to our economy. That helped a lot of people. But then there were a lot of problems as well. But those solutions to those problems have been being discussed in a more permanent basis. The Department of Labor is actually working with Washington and other states on developing some deeper solutions to the problems that we've been finding, not just Band-Aids, but something that will structurally fix the problems that are causing people to wait so long for their benefits or not get them when they deserve them. So we're looking forward to seeing some more permanent changes in the UI system. And we're always interested in hearing what your experience is in your application process and in your struggle to get your appeals heard, because these help us take to ESD what is actually happening. Sometimes they don't understand the extent of the problem, and help us propose ways that they can improve the system. So that's the news for this week.
All right, thanks, Ann. We will go to some questions now. See, a question from a person who had missed an unemployment hearing. They were unaware that their employer had appealed their claim. And the question is, what can I do now? If your employer appealed, it probably means you were getting benefits at some point, and that would lead to an overpayment. So it's important to try to get a new hearing. If you don't have the actual decision, if you're just getting overpayment notices, it's good to contact the Office of Administrative Hearings. And I'm going to put that number here in the chat. OAH is Office of Administrative Hearings, 800-366-0955. And if you don't have it already, get a copy of the hearing decision that went against you. There's instructions at the end about filing a petition for review, and the petition should simply state, I did not get notice of this hearing. Please reschedule a hearing from me, and follow those instructions and get that in. It's possible that this, I don't have any dates on this, that this might have happened a couple months ago, since you just are getting overpayment notices now. So that petition for review is probably late because there's a 30-day deadline. And it would be good to explain that I just got this notice, or I just became aware of a hearing held without notice to me. Please find good cause for the late petition for review and good cause for non-appearance at the hearing. They will reset a hearing date in which the judge will hear those issues about why the petition is late, if it was late, and why the hearing was missed. And if they find good cause, they will go ahead to the merit. It's important to do that, to try to get this resolved that way. And of course, you can contact Unemployment Law Project for help with this. Okay. Next question here is, I have a friend who has an unemployment problem. Can I represent him in the hearing? I'm not an attorney. In administrative hearings, non-attorneys can provide representation, but judges can be frustrated with that if it's depending on how it's done. If representation does not mean speaking for them. A representative in a hearing would ask questions of parties, make objections if needed, and then make a closing argument. So sometimes people misinterpret the idea of representation, just like when Unemployment Law Project represents a party, we ask questions in the hearing, maybe make objections if it's needed, and of course make the closing argument, but we don't testify on behalf of any individual person. since we don't have personal knowledge and judges want to get personal knowledge. So you or your friend can contact the Unemployment Law Project directly for help. See here. So we have a question here. A person who'd been working as a substitute and has not been back to work yet has been applying for unemployment, even though I guess the claim has come to an end. The person's had a problem getting into the account due to multi-factor authentication. They say I need to put in a special number. They sent to my phone. When I put in the special number, they say there was someone already with this name. They've told me to edit and update my contacts and reapply. What is this about? It's kept me from applying. I'd like to stop altogether. Is that okay, since I can't get it? Or is this what everyone has to do, reapply? And how do you even do that? So, Anne, please help with this. First of all, what are they doing with this multi-factor authentication going on?
Sure. So this has been around for at least several months. Everyone's getting familiar with this now. When you log on, you get a message saying we're sending you a code to your email address, the one that we have on record, and send it back to us. And then sometimes they'll add another security question. What was your first dog's name? I don't know if they're using that at ESD, but that would be a typical one. And at some websites. So multi-factor authentication is considered a very good security measure. Unfortunately, it bogs down the process. A lot of people get stuck. And something like this happens where they say, oh no, that doesn't work. Somebody's already using that. My first reaction though would be call the fraud department at ESD right away and tell them that you think someone might be using your name. That is something that they're more likely to answer the phone in that department because they are sensitive to fraud. So I'm looking for that number right now, and I will keep trying to find it before the end of our webinar. But that is one thing you should do. And also don't forget to let even though it seems hopeless, you do let the claim center know through the toll-free line that you're encountering this problem. They need to know, even if it seems like you're having, and you will have a lot of trouble getting through. But they should know that this multi-factor authentication is causing a lot of people trouble.
We are getting many calls on that, and it's a lot of difficulty. And people also have trouble getting through on the 800 number. And again, I've said this many times at these webinars, if you cannot get through on 800 number, if you've tried and it just doesn't work, you can contact your state senator, your state representatives, or the governor's office, and that might work. And then the other part of the thing is, I like to stop altogether. Is that okay? Well, getting unemployment is a choice. Some people need it, some people don't. Some people make choices not to deal with the complex system and all the frustrations that go with it. My advice would be to think about it and to really find out if you are truly not eligible, and then you can end claiming or stop claiming or close the claim if that works for you. But if there are benefits that you would be eligible for, it would be advisable to keep claiming, especially if you have the financial need for that. Going to in the chat. Well, this is a comment from someone. It's not a question. Last week, I questioned an overpayment notice via e-services alert without an explanation letter. This person received an explanation letter on Tuesday via e-services dated September 20. The explanation letter received within e-services account 2 days after the actual alert. Very interesting, how these things go. But it's good that you are getting notices and can respond to them. Everyone read your notices carefully, read them from beginning to end. If you don't understand them, have somebody help you go over with them, and especially any notice that involves an overpayment or a denial of benefits read them, and file for individual hearings for any letter that you disagree with, whether it be an overpayment or a denial. There are some letters that are actually in your favor if you read them closely, and there's no need to appeal those. And people do get contradictory letters. I would look at the timing of the letters too. You know, if you get a letter, say we previously denied benefits and now we're granting them for this reason, look at that and the timing of that, whether an appeal is appropriate. It's the reason I stretched the individual appeal is that many years ago, when they had a different system, a person could just file a general appeal and they would bundle together denial notices that were sort of in the mix in the recent history, but that's not done now. So if they send you separate denial letters for separate weeks, you should appeal every one of them. It could be in the same letter, but identify each week and identify each letter that you are appealing. We have a question. Why is the overpayment amount different in my overpayment appeal letter? I filed for the appeal, but on my portal, it says a higher amount. Typically, this is because when the letter they send you about the overpayment, they're talking about a base amount of the overpayment, and that you probably received at some point either $600 attached to that from last year, or maybe $300, whether it's lost wages or other supplemental pandemic insurance, and that's the difference in the amount. My understanding is that if you prevail in your hearing and the base amount overpayment is removed, that the other overpayment should be removed as well. And do you have anything to add on that?
Yes, unless you were, I can't think of any exceptions to that. It was an add-on. So whatever, if you received a benefit that week and it was added on, that the add-on is what usually is causing the difference. It was $600 a week last year for 5 months and $300 a week this year for the last 9 months, almost 9 months. So that should be eliminated when, as soon as the week that it was added onto, until that benefit is eliminated as well. But it's very confusing the way they notify people about this, and we've asked them to see what they can do about changing it.
Okay. We have a couple more questions. A person writing in says, I received the bill for overpayment. It's past the 30-day appeal letter because appeal period because I was unaware of the overpayment. I'm having trouble navigating the website to file an appeal. Is there a tutorial or information available to shed light on this process? You can file an appeal by phone, by fax, by U.S. mail, and through the e-services account. If you do it through e-service, make sure it's not just sending it as a message, but it's actually filing an appeal. On the overpayment letter, which should be in your past notices and letters, it should be there when it is. And in your appeal, you want to keep it very simple. Say, I disagree with this overpayment. If it's late, you could say, I just received notice of this overpayment. That's the reason why the appeal is late. But keep it short and simple, and get that in, follow those instructions, and provide what information. For example, on the letters of denial or overpayment, they say when you submit your appeal to include your current name, address, phone number, social security number, a written signature is important, you know, and get that in and put a date on it and keep a copy of it as well, because as we know, faxes sometimes don't go through, the mail doesn't get through, or even if you do it through e-services, we've heard cases where people filed something and it wasn't sent or received or some other technical problem. So it's good to keep a record and a date on what you do submit. Anything else to add, Ann? on that?
Yeah, many of these overpayments are going to people that, you know, ESD says you didn't answer a questionnaire because ESD is being required by the feds to add a lot more justification for many of the benefits they were paid. So in some cases, it's not exactly ESD's fault. They're getting a lot of pressure from the Department of Labor to prove that people who got PUA, for example, actually qualified for it. So they send it, in the past, they've been sending a questionnaire and saying, get back to us in 5 days. Well, that was so bad that they increased it to 10 days. And there's been so much backlash about this. And we've made so many complaints about it, but I did see something very encouraging. The reason is because a lot of people are not getting benefits anymore. They don't look at their e-services every day or week or even in a month because they're not getting benefits now. And then so a notice comes up and they don't see it. So, but I did see something the other day, which was a notice that was sent by mail and said, we need answers from you on this questionnaire and we haven't heard back from you. Can you please get in touch with us? And they gave them a month to answer. So I don't know if this was totally a fluke. I have never seen this before. I'm hoping that it's a positive trend and shows that maybe ESD understands what is happening. They're wasting a lot of their time as well as the claimant's time by browbeating people with these overpayment claims when it really is not, there's no way they could have known about it if they were not checking their e-services constantly. So I don't know of a tutorial, but this is an extremely good idea to get people a little more up to speed. But one encouraging thing is that ESD is at least making, for some people, they have been making a change in terms of this notification. So I hope that, but when you file your appeal, be sure and get and state that you did not receive this because possibly in your case, but in many cases, you were not looking at the e-services portal and had no way of knowing about it.
And also, we see this other occurrence on occasion where even if an appeal is late, if the determination notice is void or invalid, it can be thrown out by a judge. So it's very good to go ahead. And for the person who asked that question and anyone else, if you have specific issues, please contact the Unemployment Law Project by phone or by email. We get hundreds of calls every day, so there may be a delay, or you can try to contact me directly or Ann through our website. But the bottom line, read every notice and appeal every notice and keep the appeal request simple, put a date on it and keep a copy. Looks like one more question here. This person, I think we might have sort of answered this in a way. The person says a family member received a bill from unemployment and it has no idea what it's for or why it is. This is very typical now that I think Ann referred to as people are not checking their e-services account portal because often their claims are closed, they're back to work now. So this person probably, or I would say in their ESD portal, their e-services account, under past notices and letters of past determinations, there should be an explanation of what the overpayment is to some degree, even if it's vague, with instructions on how to appeal. If that's not satisfactory, again, try the 800 number at ESD to try to get through, but be aware that if this is for a family member, they won't talk to you unless the family member is with you. So if you're helping someone out, it's, you can't just call up and talk about other people's claims. And if that doesn't work, again, contact your state senator or state representative's office and see if they can contact ESD to try to at least figure this out so that a hearing can be requested. And when you get a hearing, of course, you can contact Unemployment Law Project for help. Anything else to add, Ann, on that?
No.
Okay. And I think we are ready to wrap for today. Thank you. We will be back next week. Thank you.
Bye.